You need to have done the beginner's course of ACL so that you know what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to show you how to do some of the basic things in scripting. Some of you might not know anything about scripting, and that's great. Right, so we're going to just cover only a few things in this hour session. We're going to cover comments, how to make a comment, different types of filters, global and command filters, how to do computed fields with and without conditions in a script. We're also going to learn how to do the extract command and the summarize command in a script. And we're going to learn a little bit about how to use the log for scripting. So let's jump straight into ACL, into data that a lot of you will be familiar with. So I've got the demo training data project here. It's very nice if you've got this project from your beginner's course to practice writing scripts, whether you've got attended scripting training or not. This has got very nice data for doing lots of different scripting exercises. So the first thing you always do before you start writing a script is you create a folder. And we always give the folder the same name, Z_scripts. The Z is there to move this folder towards the bottom so that we don't have to look all among the other folders to see where the scripts folder is. And then we can create a script. We simply right-click on that Z scripts folder and we go to new script. Now, script really is very simple. It is a document where we have written instructions to ACL. So instead of me clicking on analyze and clicking on summarize, for example, and choosing whatever options here, all I need to do is type those same things. Now I'm going to start off first with something very simple but very important. I'm going to write the word open. That is what you type if you want to open a table. Then obviously you have to indicate the name of the table you wish to open. So I wish to open the AR table. So I'm going to type that. That will open the AR table. Now I'll show you this does actually work. If I'm, let's say, in a customer table, that's the wrong table for what I want to do. I want to be in AR. My script instructs ACL to open AR. Now, ACL will not do anything with the script until I tell it to. So I'm going to tell ACL to read the instructions in the script and to carry them out. In IT language, I've got to run the script. So above this instruction I've typed, there's a whole toolbar. And this button with the little arrow, not the one with the arrow and the line, just the plain arrow, that's called run. So I'm going to click on that to tell ACL to read the instructions in this document, in the script, and carry them out. So I click on this, and what it does is it opens the AR table. So far, so good. Nice, simple instruction. Now, obviously, you're going to open a table because you want to do some kind of analysis. And maybe I want to do a filter. Now, before I do a filter, I decide I want to make a note to myself to remind myself of what it is I'm about to do or why I did something. So I'm going to write what's called a comment. I'm going to make a mistake first. I'm going to write my comment here, a little note to myself, so that when I look at the script next week or next month, I can remember what I did or why I did certain things. So I'm going to write here, I want to look for all the invoices. So this is a note I'm making to myself. But when I run the script, I get an error message. The open AR part is fine. ACL does not understand what I've written here in line 3. You see the numbers there, line 3. Because I have written in English, not in ACL language. So when you want to make a comment to yourself, what you should do is you should put the word comment first. So I'm going to write the word comment. And notice that comment and the comment underneath are green. The second I press enter, that's no longer a comment according to ACL. And I'll get an error message again. I need to make sure that there's no gap between the word comment and the actual comment. So we often use these comments to ourselves to help us remember what we've done, why we did certain things. And it's very, very important in scripting to make lots and lots of comments. If you think a comment is silly, write it anyway. Because I promise you, you will forget in a year's time why you did things that at the time seemed very basic. Your colleagues also will need to use these comments that you leave in your scripts, because you go and leave now, let's say, and your colleague needs to update the script with an additional test or an additional option or something, and they have to now try and figure out what you did in the script because you didn't leave any comments. That's not a good idea. Leave them lots of comments. It will help them. And they will leave you lots of comments too to help you when you need to update their scripts and maintain their scripts. So here's my comment. It's not the best comment, but if it's silly and I'm not sure if I should put it in, I'd rather put it in. Okay, so I'm going to now say I'm in the AR table. Remember, line 1 took me to AR. And I can now say I want to do a filter. Now, usually in the beginner's course, when we want to do a filter, we come to this filter button, edit view filter. We click there, and then we do whatever filter we want. So I need to tell ACL to do that filter for me. I need to say set filter. that tells ACL basically click a filter. And I want to set this filter to something. Now I want to look for invoices. The comment up there just reminded me I want to look for invoices. And if I look at my data, this column transaction type is where I need to receive something as an invoice. But this heading transaction type is, as you know from the beginner's course, not necessarily the name of the field. When you communicate with ACL, you do not use your column titles, you use the field names. And of course, I can go to the table out, I can click edit, can click table out to see what the field name is for trans type. Alternatively, I can stay in my script and just press on my keyboard the function key F2. And it brings me up a list of all sorts of things. Now, I don't want to see everything, I just want to see my fields. So where it says data categories, I'll make sure I select fields. And I recognize this column title trans type, and I'll click on it. And you'll see the field name for that column is actually type. Now, it doesn't matter where you click in this line, on trans type, in the space, on type, it really doesn't matter. The second you click OK, ACL puts the field name. And now I'm going to do my normal filter that we learned in the beginner's course equals IN. Now, I want to see if this works. So I'm going to click on run, and I get this result here. I see only invoices. Record 1 was a credit note. I can't see it at the moment. Record 5 and 6 were some other transaction types. I can't see them. So there's a basic filter. Now, I decide I want to do another filter. I want to look for credit notes, let's say. Let me make a comment to myself quickly. I want to look for the credit notes. Okay. And I'll also make a note to myself if I'm going to find these notes useful when learning scripting that says something like this. This new filter will automatically replace the invoices filter. So the second I do this filter that I'm about to do, ACL is going to replace this filter type equals IN with a new one. So if I run the script, the last thing I can see here after the script is finished is this filter for credit notes. Now, it's very important. Some people get confused and they tell themselves things that aren't true. They say to themselves, oh, ACL didn't do that filter for invoices. Actually, it did. It did that command first, then it did that instruction, then it did that one. ACL will do every single instruction you tell it to. It reads them from top to bottom. It doesn't just skip things out. Just because we didn't see the filter for invoices this time doesn't mean that it didn't happen. It happened. It would obviously be sensible for me if I wanted to keep those invoices to extract them to a new table before doing the next filter. Right, so I'm going to now say, okay, comment. I wish to remove all the filters. So I don't want to actually replace any filters. Let me make an additional note here. Without replacing the credit notes filter, oopsie, the credit notes filter, let me rather type here, with another filter. So sometimes you don't want to do another filter. You just want to get rid of whatever filters there are. So that's very simple. You type set filter just like that. I'm setting the filter to nothing. In other words, I'm removing it. So if I run this, the last thing I will see is all my records, all 772, no question mark /772. There's no filter in this box because I said whatever my last filter was, please replace it. Well, not replace it, remove it completely. So that set filter without saying anything is like me taking the mouse and clicking on the remove filter button. Okay, let me do another filter. Let me put a comment here to myself. Comment. I wish to see a list of invoices and credit notes. So I'm going to do a filter. So set filter type equals IN or type equals CN. So all the filters we did in the beginner's course, using AND, using OR, using functions, you can do them here as well. The only difference is we don't click on the filter button, we write set filter in front of the filter. So when I run this, I will see all my invoices and all my credit notes. So no big deal there. Let me try and do another filter. Now, I'm going to make a mistake because I want you to learn from my mistakes. So I want to do something not in the AR table now. I want to do something in the customer table. I want to look in this customer name column for names that contain the word national. Okay. So I'm going to use the find function because national might occur at the end, in the beginning, in the middle, wherever. The point is I'm still doing a normal filter. So comment. I want to do a filter in the customer table to look for names that contain the word national. Let me just break this line a bit here. That contain the word national. Right, so I'm going to say set filter, find national. Now remember, I'm using the find function. I'll just restrict it to the name field. I'm using the find function and it's not case sensitive. So it doesn't matter if I type capital letter N, small letter N, capital A, small a, find is not case sensitive. So I'm going to run this. Let's see what happens. I get an error message, right? By the way, you notice I didn't click on that button when I ran it. Sometimes my preference is to use the keyboard to run a script. On my keyboard to run a script, I press the function key F5. So you're welcome to click on that run button. You're welcome to press the function key F5. They both run a script. So I'm going to click OK to get rid of this error message. And you can see sometimes there's a red arrow that tells me where the error is. Now, there's nothing actually wrong with this command itself. The syntax is perfect. The problem is the following. Up here in line 1, I said open the AR table. You can see AR is open. That's fine when I want to look for invoices. That's fine when I want to look for credit notes. That's fine, obviously, when I want to remove the filter. That's fine when I want to see the invoices and the credit notes. But when I get to line 29, I'm still sitting in AR. It's open because of line 1. ASAP cannot guess that I want to go to the customer table. So this is a very basic mistake a lot of people make when they start scripting. They forget. You have to always tell ACL to open the correct table. If you're not in the correct table, tell ACL. Don't assume you're in the correct table. So I need to quickly say open customer. Now, by the way, some of you who haven't done scripting might be wondering, should I leave a line open between, open AR and comment? Should I leave a line open between open customer and set filter? Because sometimes I do. The answer is leave it if you wanted to. If you want to, don't, leave a blank line there between those two lines, for example. If you want to, don't leave a blank line if you don't want to. You know how you write in English, you write paragraphs, you don't write one big block. One of the reasons we write in paragraphs in English is because it becomes very difficult to read one huge block of writing. Now, this is the same thing that happens in scripting. We tend to put blank lines in sometimes to make things easier for us as human beings to read. Blank lines or lack of blank lines, as a general rule, don't make a difference to scripting, to ACL itself. Obviously, if I remove that blank line, there's a problem because now ACL thinks those are not instructions there. It thinks they are comments and it will ignore them. So blank lines matter sometimes, but usually it's a question of personal preference. Now, if I run the script again, remember I got an error message because I was in the AR table because I forgot that I needed to open customer to go do the analysis there. So when I run this, there we go, there's my filter inside the customer table. So you can use filters just as we did in the beginner's course with the boring filters with one field. You can use and, you can use or, you can use not, you can use the search functions. And what we learned earlier on in these sessions was that you can use other functions that aren't search functions as long as you take them and add something to them to turn them into a statement. All right. So those are what we call global filters. So I'm just going to make a comment to myself. So far, I have done only global filters. A global filter is a filter that lets me see the results in the view. So for example, this here that I've done with find is a global filter because I can see the results in my view. I can see only the things that are national. There's another kind of filter where you do not see these results in the view. That is called a command filter. But so far, all the filters we've done in the script are global filters. Now, it's a bit silly to call this script new script. So I want to rename it quickly. I'm going to rename it and call it global filters. In fact, I'm just going to put A1 in front so we know that's the first script we did, global filters. And then I'm ready to create a new script. Now, every so often, I'm going to press Control S on my keyboard. I encourage you to do the same. Things happen. Your power fails, the battery of your laptop falls out. No, there's load shedding, all sorts of things can go on. So I'm just going to press Control S every so often to save my project and to save my scripts. All right, I'm now going to go right click on Z script, that folder, and go to new script. And let me type something here. I'm going to say open AR because I first need to open the AR table. Now, this is a mistake people make again. They assume if the previous script took them to the correct table that they are still in there. Now, my previous script, the last table it took me to was customer. But very often you'll find in practice, the last table might be, let's say, the AR table that you went to. So let's say that's where I am at the moment because of what my last script did. Let's pretend that's what happened. Some people don't add that line, assuming, well, everything will be fine because my previous script took me there. That's a very bad idea because you will write some other scripts during the course of the year that go and take you out of that table. And then this script, because it no longer refers to AR, stops working, it breaks. So whatever you do, always make sure when you start a script that you tell ACL which table to open. Don't assume it will be the correct table. Your assumption might be correct for today, for next week, for next month, even for this year. Give it time. Your assumption will become false, will become incorrect soon enough. So always make sure you've opened a table when you start a script. Right, so I want to open AR. Now I want to talk to you about the extract command first before I go back to these other filters that I mentioned, the ones that happen in the background. So I want to do a quick global filter, set type, and I'll call, say, yeah, amount greater than 4,000. I want to look for those transactions, but I want to extract into a new table. Now, when we did this with the mouse, we went to data extract, and there were three options at the top: record, view, and fields. Remember, view chooses whatever the columns are that are visible in your view. Record picks from the table layout. What is in the view is not necessarily what's in the table layout because you might have decided not to make all the columns visible in the view. You might also have a view that has columns that you pull through from other tables using the relate command that will not be in the table layout of this particular table. Fields will choose all the fields that you indicate. So if I choose fields, I've got to now specifically choose the ones I want. Anyway, I need to do this in scripting, not with the mouse. Now in scripting, we do not have this view option. We only have record and we only have fields. So either we stipulate the exact fields we want, or we let ACL pick the fields from this table layout in scripting. And then, of course, after we've chosen record, all fields and the fields we need, if we want to be very specific, we then need to send the data to a new table. So I decide I want to use the record option. So let me make a comment here. Okay, I want to extract the fields from the table layout to a new table. So I'm going to write here, extract. That's the command I want to use. And then the option I want is record because I want to extract from the table layout. And I need to say true. I don't need to choose fields because record tells ACL to pick the fields for me from the table layout. And I'll call this AR, I'll just call it AR 4000, and I'll put the word record so that we know I chose the record option. Now, if I extract using the mouse, I can tell you now, ACL is going to open the new table for me automatically. But when I do this with a script, you can see there's the filter for amounts above 4,000. There's the table that I created using extract, but it's not open. Scripts never automatically open things for you. That's because when you do scripting, ACL assumes you are at an advanced level of learning, so you know when you need to open a table, you know when not to. ACL is not going to force it on you. Imagine that it forced you to automatically open this table and you still wanted to do analysis in AR. That's frustrating. So ACL says, I'm not going to open anything unless you tell me to. You, an advanced ACL user now, you know when to open things. I will listen to you. So I want to open this table. So I'm going to write open. And I can type this table name, but it's easier just to copy it and paste it. That's one of the nice things about scripting. You can copy and paste one word, one table name. You could copy, this whole script, 100-line script, and it makes your life easier. With the mouse, if you only know how to do the test with the mouse, every time you want to do a slightly similar test as what you did earlier, you've got to go through all the steps with the mouse. With scripting, if you want to create another script that is similar to this one, you copy and paste. into a new script and you just make a few changes. Much faster, much nicer. So if I run the script now, yes, I'm going to overwrite all this other stuff. It's going to ask me, do I want to overwrite this table and the file in the background, because obviously they already exist. I'll just say yes. And there I've got this table and it opens, right? Now, I could have done this differently. Instead of, well, I'll leave it like that. I'll leave it like that. I decide now I want to go do another filter, also in the AR table. I want to look for the payments. Now this, I'm doing something wrong. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of time to think about it. I know you can't tell me. Just give you a few seconds. I want to do this to look for the payments. I'm going to run my script and see if I get all the payments in the AR table. Yes, I want to overwrite that other story. It's fine. I'll just click on yes. And I get no results. Now, I know for a fact there are payments in the AR table. The mistake I made was the same basic mistake I warned you about earlier. I did not open AR. Yes, I opened AR in line 1, but look here, in line 10, I opened this table. So what I should do is I should open AR here. Now, to be honest, it doesn't really make sense to say open that table and then immediately open AR. In practice, we often tell ACL to open the table from extract or some other test just to see if the result looks correct to us, because we don't like double clicking too much. It becomes frustrating. But then what we do is we remove that so that we don't have to say that. So that's actually better. I don't need to open this table anymore. I've seen the result. I'm happy with it. I'll just remove the open instruction. That way, I'm still in the AR table when I get to line 11. Again, should there be a blank line there, or should I leave it like that? Well, that's up to you. How do you feel? What's your preference? You decide. It doesn't matter to ACL. All right. So now what we can do is, if we run this again, I've used F5 this time, I get all the payments. Okay, all the other things did happen. They did happen. Just remember, they do happen. ACL doesn't skip any of those instructions. Okay, so I've now got the payments. That's wonderful. And I want to extract them to a new table, but I want to use the fields option. So I'm going to write fields. But when I use the fields option, I have to stipulate the fields because I'm not picking. I'm going to press F2. Remember the function key F2 to give me a list of fields. And I'm going to choose whatever fields I want. Maybe I only want those two. Oops, my control key is not working. All right, there we go. I want only those two, let's say. I'll extract those fields to a table called AR payments. Now, I want to see what this payments table looks like. I don't feel like double clicking on the left-hand side after it's created. I want the script to open it for me. I know I can go to the next line, line 13, and type open AR payments, but there's another way I can do this. I can just put the word open here. If you put the word open on the same line that creates a table, ACL will know which table you're talking about. If you put open on a separate line, you have to indicate the table name. Right, so if I run that, yes, I want to overwrite all this other nonsense. There we go. There are my payments, and those are the two fields. Now, if I give this to someone, they might say, what are these things? I see reference numbers, I see transaction amounts, what am I looking at? They don't necessarily know it's payments. So it's very easy for me to fix this with the script. I just go back to my list of fields. I press F2. Oops, I must be in the right table. AR has the fields I want. F2, and I choose transaction type to show them its payments. Again, scripting is nice because you can easily fix a lot of your mistakes. If I had made a mistake with the mouse here, I forgot to pull through the transaction type column, I would have to start from the very beginning with the mouse, the filter, the extract, the fields, everything. With scripting, I didn't have to go all the way back there and change things. I just needed to press F2 and pick one small field. It's much easier to fix your mistakes with a script. You really want to use scripting a lot in the office. It's much nicer than using the mouse for many, many reasons. Okay, so this person will now hopefully realize they're looking at a list of payments. Okay. And of course, what's also nice is if the order of fields is incorrect, I could just move them around in my script. If I didn't know scripting, I would have to start the whole process with the filter and everything again from the beginning with the mouse. Thank goodness for scripting. It saves me so much time when I make a mistake. I can fix things quickly. All right, so that's the extract command so far. Now, I want to stay in the AR table, do something else. So I'm going to remove that word open. Okay, and I think maybe, I'll leave the comments for the moment because we're running out of time. So I'm going to write here, okay, I want to do another filter. I want to, this time I'll write a comment. I'll say, I want to do a filter and then use the extract command. With the fields option, but I wish to select all the fields in a manner that is as easy as possible. So I'm going to say extract field, let me do a filter quickly. Set filter, let's just look for credit notes, type equals CN. Then I can say extract fields. And I want all the fields, and I can press F2 and pick all of them, but I said I want to make it as easy as possible for myself. I'm going to write all. You can say I want to extract fields all. Then I'm going to say to ARCN, and then I can open that table if I want to see what it looks like. Yes, I want to overwrite, yes, yes, yes. I'll just keep saying yes. All right, and there we go. I've got all the credit notes now. Okay, so that word all you can use to say all the fields. Remember in the beginner's course, there are differences between record and fields. Even though record will pick all the fields from the table out, and even though fields all will also pick all the fields from the table out, there are differences we learned in the beginner's course, such as what happens to formulas in computed fields when you extract them using record versus field. What happens to fields pulled through from relationship when you extract them using record versus fields, etc., etc. There are still differences in terms of the results, not in terms of the columns necessarily, but in terms of the results in the background. Okay, right. So that is a bit about the extract command. So let me quickly change this. I'm going to call this script A2. Let's see. Okay, A2 extract command. Right, and I'll press Control S just to be safe, and let me create a new script. So I want to talk to you about computed fields quickly. So I'm going to call this script quickly A3, check net pay. I want to check the net pay amounts in the payroll table. I want to see if they're correct. So I'm going to take the mouse and open payroll so I can get to know my data, and so that I can use F2 to get a list of fields from this table later on in my script. Now, I see there's only two columns really that would affect someone's net pay in this data, the gross pay and the tax. So I need to take the gross pay, subtract the tax to calculate the net pay, and hopefully I get the same answer as the payroll system. So I'm going to open a table. Now, I'm a bit nervous maybe that I'm not focusing right now, and I'm going to make a spelling mistake when I type the table name payroll. So you know how I pressed F2 to get field names? Well, I can press something to get to list of table names, F4. So if I press the function key F4, I get a list of table names. And I'm looking for payroll, and there it is. Now I can go ahead and say, create a computed field, define field. This is how we create a field in a script. We say define field, and I need to give it a name. I'll call it C_net pay recalc. I'm going to recalculate the net pay. And very importantly, I must put the word computed so that ACL knows what this field is called. Now, this is where a lot of people make a mistake. Pay close attention here. After I've typed the word computed, on my keyboard, I'm going to press the enter key twice. Not once, twice. Not 3 times, not 4 times, twice. 1, 2. If I do that, it's wrong. If I do that, it's wrong. It must be 1, 2. That is where the formula goes. So I'm going to press F2 so I can get the fields. I want to take the gross pay, and I want to subtract the tax amount. This line here that I've left blank, ACL doesn't look there for the formula. It looks there for special options. That line is reserved for special options, such as what do you want the column title to be in the view. The formula goes underneath that line. If you have special options, if you don't have special options, it doesn't matter. The formula still goes on the line underneath, directly underneath the special options. Not like that. That's wrong. Like that. Underneath that line for special options. Whether I filled in something there or not is irrelevant. This goes underneath that line for special options, directly underneath. Not like this. That line is for special options, not for formulas. Not like this. Not like this. Not like this. Sorry, like that. Not like that, like this, right? Please stick to that rule. People often press enter too many times or too few times, and they wonder what's happening. You're pressing enter too many times, or you're pressing enter too few times. Only one line there. That's for your special options. Whether you use them or not is irrelevant. then this is where your formula goes. Right, so I'm going to run the script to see what this looks like. And you probably won't see the computed field in the view, which is fine. I'll just take my mouse at this point and add it to the view so we can see what it looks like. Right, so it did create our computed field, there it is. Now there is a way to get a script to add the fields to your view for you, but we're not going to do that in this session. It's too time consuming. Plus, in the real world, we don't actually add columns to the view with a script as a general rule. It's very, very, very rare that we would tell the script to add a column to the view. We normally, in the real world, when we are testing our scripts by running them repeatedly, we normally add it to the view just to see if we got the right result. But once we've given the script to our colleague, we don't add it to the view with the mouse anymore, and the chances, as I said, that the script would add it are practically zero. We almost never add a column to the view using the script. There's a reason for that. We don't need to get into it in this session, but it's just not, practical or sensible. That's all we need to know for the moment, as a general rule, to add it to the view using the script. Okay, so on the scripting training, we talk about why it's doesn't make sense to really add it to the view with the script most of the time. Okay, so here we have that column, but now I need to compare my answers with the original. And I'm tempted to do, well, I need to do a filter. I'm tempted to say set filter. Well, I'll show you what I'm tempted to say. I'm tempted to say this. Set filter. Okay, this field, our field, I want to see where that is not equal to this net pay field. Now that's correct. And then I want to extract it. Maybe I want to extract record, using record, extract records to net pay exceptions. Now this is correct what I'm doing, but I decide I don't want to do it exactly like this. This is a global filter, remember? It happens in the view. Now the problem is, when you do a global filter in the view, you're putting strain on your computer's memory, on your computer's RAM, because it is trying to remember which of these records to show you, so where there are exceptions in this case, and which of the records to hide from you. Now, on a small data set like this, 44 records, that's not a problem. But if you have 44 million records, you run out of RAM. Your RAM cannot take the strain anymore, and it then cannot actually process that filter. Doesn't have enough memory to remember which records to show you and which to hide from you. So you'll get an error message popping up, a timeout message. Sorry, I don't have enough RAM, I can't do this filter. We don't want that in the real world. If I'm nervous that the data set's big, I'm not going to do this global filter. I don't want it to happen in the view. Now, if I want to do this exercise with the mouse, this filter with the mouse, I have the same problem. I'm scared that if I click here, it's going to time out. It's going to time out. I'm scared because maybe it's a big data set. So I would go straight to whichever command I want, in this case, extract, and I would click on if. That if button is a filter. And I would put my filter here. Now, the result will be the same, provided, of course, there was no timeout error with my global filter. Result is the same, but the difference is it will never time out, because this filter that you see that I went to create with the if button, that filter is called a command filter. It never times out. It doesn't use your computer's RAM. It writes the results, so to speak, on your hard drive. So I want to do what's called a command filter. That if button, the reason it's called a command filter is, number one, it is a filter. Number two, the only time you see the if button in ACL is when you access a command, like extract, like join, like summarize, like cross-tabulate, and so forth. So I'm going to take this away. I don't want to do a global filter. I'm a bit nervous that my data set might be big. So I'm going to go back to this line and say extract records to that, if that. Now, those of you who've done if statements in Excel or in other programming languages, please, this is not the same if. There is an if in ACL that is the same as the one you see in Excel and in programming languages. This is not it. This is a different if. This is a filter. This is a filter. Do not ever tell yourself, oh, in Excel I also have an if. In C++ and in JavaScript and in Python and wherever else I also have an if. No, this is not the same if. Believe me, this is not the same if. There is a different if in ACL that corresponds to the if you might be thinking about. Don't confuse them. This is purely a filter. Right, so I can now say open here. And when I run this, yes, I'm going to overwrite whatever's there. Don't panic that there's no records. Sometimes the controls work. This is a good thing. We want them to work. You shouldn't complain if there's corruption and then complain as an auditor that everything's working. We want things to work. It makes us happy. All right, so there are no exceptions in this case. Maybe next month there will be. Right. Now, by the way, this is another nice thing about scripting. If I only know how to use the mouse, what that means is every single month, I have to go and redo this test with the mouse. It's painful on every new data set. With a script, all I need to do, if I've only learned basic scripting, is open the script and click on run, or press F5. And then it will do this for me quickly on next month's data set. Because next month, your payroll table will have the same columns, will still have gross pay, tax amount, net pay, etc. It's not going to change. So your script, you just click run and it does it very quickly. You don't have to go from the beginning, try to figure out again how to do this test, tell ACL everything painfully with the mouse. You just run the script. Much easier, much faster. Okay, so there I've taught you now a command filter, right? That is my command filter. Right, now, if I run the script again, you know that I'm going to get a message like this. This field exists, and do you want to overwrite? Yes. This other table and file net pay exceptions exist. You want to overwrite? Yes. Now, ACL is obviously asking if you want to overwrite these things because they do already exist. But it is very frustrating for us. Imagine now we've got to sit out at our desks constantly monitoring. Is there a message we have to click yes? You can't do your work now because you're constantly going, is there a yes message? Is there a no message? What's going on? So what we often do is we add a line to the top of our script to tell ACL to switch off the safety mechanism that asks us, are you sure you want to overwrite the tables, the files, the fields? Be careful. We're going to stop the message that asks us if we sure want to overwrite the files, the fields, the tables. I'm not saying it will stop other messages. So this instruction is set safety off. Set safety off. Let me make a comment to myself about what this does so that I don't forget. Set safety off stops the messages that ask us if it is okay to overwrite a file, a field, or a table. Okay. It doesn't stop any other messages. Be careful. Some people type set safety off and then I ask why are certain other messages appearing? It's because they're forgetting that the message they're trying to stop has nothing to do with that there. So if I run this, I want to see if I get any of these messages. Are you sure you want to overwrite the table, the file, the field? Let's see. Nothing. It just goes for it, right? It just does it. Okay. So, sorry, I misspelled safety up there. Safety. All right. Okay, so there's my script, Control S. So that's a simple computed field. And I also showed you a command filter. So let me just make a comment here. Below, I'm going to use a command filter, no, the F, instead of a global filter. Because I'm nervous that I have a very big data set. Global filters will time out on very big data sets. Okay, right. Now, I decide I want to use the summarize command, I want to create another computed field, I think. I want to create a computed field in the inventory table. So let me open the inventory table. So let me go create a new script. I'll call this script add city. I want to create a column in the inventory table. Let me just, okay, let me show you, called city. We have different branches of our organization. There's a branch in location 06, there's a branch in location 03, 04, and so on. I want a column that tells you in which branch it is, in which locate what the city is. So is 06 Johannesburg, Lagos, Cape Town, where is it? So I'm going to write set safety off because I've learned now I really don't have time to deal with these overwrite messages of files, fields, and tables. And I'm going to say open inventory. Now I'm scared I might misspell inventory, so I'll press F4 and I will get to the top table names. Then I can say define field. This is a computed field. And this field is called C underscore city, computed. And now I'm going to put only one city name for the moment, right? I'm going to write Accra, for example. So I am putting a default value of Accra. I'm assuming that all the cities for the moment are Accra. So I'm going to run the script just to see what happens. I'll add this column to the view using the mouse for testing purposes. And of course, it says all these locations are Accra. Now, that's not correct, but this is what happens when you put only a default. It makes everything the same. Now, by the way, you can see this looks ugly up here, C_city. That's fine as a field name, not for a column title, because my column titles need to look nice for when they go into report. So let me use this line that I didn't use in the other script. I'm going to write in this options line as. I want this to be known as something else in the view. As, and your column titles always go between inverted commas. And I'll put city with a capital C like that. If I run this again, even though I'm still not happy with the result, at least the column title looks pretty now. Okay, no one will see C_city in small letters in our reports. Only ACL sees that. Now, I've got a problem. Because I've got other codes there that don't correspond to Accra, I need to put in conditions. With conditional computed fields in scripting, the default value goes last. So I need to make room for a condition here. I must have the default value last. So I'm going to say, all right, I've got a field called, I'm going to have a city called Cape Town. And I'll say Cape Town if location equals 0, 1. Right, there is a field in this data called location. If I press F2, I will see location with a small l, right? And if that is 0, 1, I want the city to be Cape Town. Now notice this if is a filter. It's actually a filter. It's a command filter. It's a kind of a command filter. That is just a filter. It's saying look for where the location is 0, 1, and then go put Cape Town in the city column for those particular records. So if I run this now, I'll see it says Accra most of the time, but if I scroll down a bit, let's see. Okay, where are my 0, 1s? There you go. 0, 1 is now Cape Town. I need some more conditions. Now I can copy and paste this. It will make my life easier. It's scripting. I'll copy and paste it maybe twice. Right, so now I'm going to say, okay, we have Nairobi if location equals 0, 2. We have Kinshasa if location equals, oopsie, what did I write there? Equals 0, 3. So now I have my conditions and I have my default. You have to always have a default, remember, because what if you don't have a suitable condition? Don't say to yourself, oh no, I was careful, I put in all the correct conditions. You still require a default. ACL requires a default. Always put it in. So if you're not sure what to start with the default. So I'm going to assume all the cities are this. So I'm going to assume the formula for depreciation is always cost price times 20%. So the default is almost like an assumption, which will be true only some of the time. For where that assumption isn't true, we have other values and other conditions. Notice in scripting, we put the value first, then the condition. When you do it with a mouse, you put the condition first, then the value. Slightly reversed here. Okay, so if I run this, you'll see I've got Accra and Kinshasa, and down here somewhere I will have Cape Town and also Nairobi. There's Cape Town. Just waiting for Nairobi, there's Nairobi, right? So we have these things. So this is a conditional computed field. Again, your first condition goes underneath this options line. If you don't use that options line, it's fine, but it still has to be underneath that options line. Okay? And then you don't want any gaps here. That's a problem because ACL is going to go, I don't understand, where's your default? You cannot have gaps here. Here the gaps matter. So there must be a line here for special options. Use those special options if you want. Don't use them, but there's got to be that line. Then your first condition, then your second, then your third, then your millionth or whatever condition, and eventually your default. No gaps in here, please. Right? This is all one block. This here doesn't matter. Put a blank line, don't put a blank line, that doesn't matter. That will still work. So be careful. Most of the time when we put in blank lines, it's a question of personal preference. But with certain things like with comments and with computed fields, it is essential that you put in blank lines where you need to and that you leave them out where they don't belong. The only time in a computed field a blank line is okay is if you decide not to use those options, then you leave that line blank. But otherwise, no blank lines ever in a computed field, with or without conditions, please. It doesn't matter. No blank lines otherwise in a computed field. All right, now, let's talk about the summarize command very quickly. Okay, we just press Control S. I'm going to create a new script. Now, by the way, I'm creating new scripts for learning. You know, I don't want to put my extract necessarily in the same script as summarize and in the same one as my global filters. But in the real world, we do tend to create lots of scripts. We, as a general rule, as a general guideline, create one script for each audit procedure. Don't go and do all your payroll tests and all your depreciation scripts for fixed assets, tests for fixed assets in one script. It doesn't make sense. It becomes very difficult to manage and to use pieces of the script for another project. Don't do it. So you don't even have all your payroll tests in one script. You have one script to look for ghost employees, maybe. One script to check if the net pay is correct. One script to check if we followed proper procedures when appointing employees, etc., etc. It makes it easier. So it's a general rule, one script per audit procedure, sometimes one script per audit objective. Don't let them get too long. It becomes difficult to maintain them. Even with comments, it's difficult to see what's going on if your scripts become too long. All right, so let's create a new script. I'll call it A5 summarize. So I want to talk to you about the summarize command. And I'm going to say set safety off so that I don't have to worry about all these messages, about overwriting files, fields, and tables. Remember, there are other messages I might get depending on what I do. And in that case, I've got to figure out how to stop those messages as well. Set safety off. Then I'm going to say open AR. I want to know the total transaction value for each customer. So I would do this. If I use the mouse, I would go to analyze, summarize. I would go to summarize on section for each section, right? And I would choose customer number from here. Like I'm in the wrong table, but I would choose customer number from here. I'd go to subtotal section and choose amount. So let me quickly open AR with the mouse because I want to use F2 to get a list of fields from AR. So I saw the word summarize on. Now, if you see me constantly going to these commands like summarize, extract to see what the options are and the keywords are. That's because it's useful to look at them when you start learning scripting, not only to remind yourself of the options, but also those keywords are almost always identical to what you need to type in the script. Eventually, you won't need to look at those screens anymore. You will know summarize command starts with summarize on, extract starts with extract record or extract fields. You will learn exactly what keywords to type for these different commands. So summarize on. Now I'm going to press F2. I want to summarize on customer number. And I want to subtotal the amount field. And then I'll send this result to a table, and I will call this table AR, let's just call this customer balance. Let's just call this customer balance, I'll abbreviate. And let's see what this looks like. I'm going to say open, let's just see what this looks like. Now, if I look at this, so far it looks good until, let me just check something here. I see in line 2, the balance for customer, the total transaction value for 516372, the balance is 3112. But then if I look at record 9, there's another balance for that same customer. That's not right. How can there be two totals for the same customer, 516372? So let me go look in my AR table to investigate. So I see there are two transactions there for that customer. Then there's some more transactions down here. What has happened is ACL summarize command has added up those two transaction values to give me the one total. It's then said, okay, I see another grouping of this customer number, 516372. So I'm going to add those amounts up and give you a second total. Now, that's not what I wanted. And in fact, when we did this in the beginner's course, we didn't get such a strange result where we had more than one total for that customer number. And if I go look again at my summarize command, because I want to see what happened, I'll notice there's an option in the bottom left-hand corner called pre-sort. If you summarize on customer number, that pre-sort will first sort the customer numbers in order. So you have one grouping of customer numbers before the summarize command totals anything. That pre-sort is ticked for us automatically when you do analysis with the mouse. But when you write a script, there is no such thing as it automatically ticks pre-sort for you. It automatically opens tables. Because remember, ACL knows you are at an advanced level now. You know when it's appropriate and desirable for you when to tick pre-sort, when not to. So it will never force it on you. So I need to quickly add this option, pre-sort, so that it will sort the data, because clearly I'm getting the wrong result at the moment. So when I run it this time, let's see what happens. Much, much better, right? Much, much better result. So there's only one instance of 5163. It's done here somewhere because of the pre-sort, right? But you need to be careful. This command uses pre-sort. The reason ACL doesn't tick it is because pre-sort is the full-on sort command. And we learned in the beginner's course, the sort command is very slow. It slows down things a lot. If that table is already sorted in a way that makes sense to you, then we don't want ACL to sort it again because it's going to slow down the processing for no good reason. This is why in scripting, ACL won't force it on you. It says, look, you're at an advanced level, you understand the issues about sorting, things being slow and so on. So I won't force it on you. You can decide if you really need this. I'm now trusting you. I'm handing over control to you as the auditor or the finance person. You will know when to do this. I do not have to tell you. I do not have to do things just in case you don't know what you're doing. Right? So be careful with this pre-sort. We often need it. Not always, often. Look at your data. Now, There was another option with summarize. The other option, just going to remove that word open. I'm going to say summarize on customer number. Now, instead of using subtotal, I'm going to say other amount. And I'll just call this AR other. And I'll remember to type pre-sort and I'll say open. Now, this other option I'm talking about, if I look at my screen, is this option down here, the section other fields. Remember, this section should actually be called something like pick the first. So pick the first transaction amount, pick the first whatever it is. That's all that option does when it comes to the summarize command. So if I run the script now, this table has this customer number, which has 2 transactions. That 1189, let me just go find this customer number for you in the original AR table. Okay, there they are. They had 2 transaction amounts, but the one ACE are showing me is the first one, that 11889. If I look at this customer number with 115 transactions, let me go find them in AR quickly. The very first transaction amount in AR for the customer is 874.97. So that picks the first. Remember, we said in the beginning of this course, it's useful to pick the first amount, provided this data is sorted in some sensible fashion, because then it lets you do trend analysis. So, for example, which issue occurs the most frequently at each branch or in each department? Which kind of exception costs us the most money, consistently or in each period? You want to see if there are consistent trends, so you can identify what's going on in the organization. But at the moment, this result I'm getting is not sensible because I haven't sorted the data in a sensible fashion. Okay, so you've got to always sort it sensibly to find out if there are any suitable trends. Okay, now I just want to talk to you also quickly about using the log. Suppose I want to now create a script, and I've only learned these basic things we've done in this session so far. And this script requires me to use, let's say, the filter button. Sorry, not the filter button. This script requires me to use the classify command. Now, we haven't learned the classify command here in this session. So now what do? I really want to use classify. So step 1 is, okay, well, let's create a new script. This shouldn't be too bad. Let me create a new script. And I'm going to call the script A6 classify. Now I can type in here if I want to, right? I'll write set safety off. And then I'll say open AR because I want to do some analysis in AR. Now, because I don't know how to do classify with the script, I'm going to use the mouse because I know from the beginner's course how to do this with the mouse. Make sure that you're in the AR table. So closing the other tables to avoid confusion. Make sure there are no filters, right? Now I can go to Analyze, Classify. And maybe I want to classify on transaction type. I want to total the amounts. So whatever I want to do, I'm doing with the mouse. Now put the result in a new table called AR Classify. Oopsie. Don't worry about that. AR Classify. So I now get this result, right? And what I can do to make my life easy is click on Window next to Help and go to Toolbar. Sorry, not Toolbar. I clicked the wrong place. Sorry, guys. I meant to click on Window Command Line. Okay, so Window Command Line gives me that thing there. And that is empty at the moment. I can now go to my log. The log records the things that I did in ACL, right? Now, the thing is, I want to get this, the correct syntax for the classify command. Now, it won't be up here somewhere because that's what I did earlier today. It will be down here at the bottom somewhere. Now, there's lots of things that we'll start to recognize. Open AR, we know what it means now. Summarize on, all these things. Some of them we'll start to be able to recognize and read now. If we go down right to the bottom, towards the bottom, it says classify on, it says open AR now. Too many people make this mistake. They think that open AR classify is the right thing. It is not the right thing. That's not the classify command. It doesn't say classify, it says open for goodness sake, which means it's opening a table. You can't say in your script, open this table if you haven't actually gotten the result yet. What I'm looking for is the classify command. So I need to click on classify. It will then appear in this box here at the top. Okay, it will then appear in this box at the top. I can go there and I can copy this to my clipboard and paste it into my script. So if I don't know the syntax for classify, I can copy and paste. Now, this is not the proper scripting course, but I will tell you this. We do not like having our table names between inverted commas. So if I get this from the log, I will remove those inverted commas. I'll remove .fil. Okay. Don't worry about it. I mean, if you want to leave it in, it's not going to cause any damage to your script, but it's not something that I like to do. I prefer consistency. I want to put my table names like that. I don't want to see inverted commas something.fil. So this is what I can do now. If I don't know the syntax for a command, go to the log, use the mouse and go to the log and get it from there. Now, classify is a bit nice and easy to get. I can run the script, by the way, to test that it works. And let's see, does it work? Yes, it does. But be careful. Some commands, like the relate command, can be a nightmare to get from the log. It takes a lot of practice to try and get the relate command from the log. There are lots of things going on there. It's better to script the relate command from scratch, but in this session, of course, there's no time to do it. We do it in the scripting training. But anyway, guys, this is an introduction to some very basic scripting. It will help you a lot in terms of some things I've discussed, plus the idea of going to the log will help you with most things. But there are obviously going to be places where you bump your head over and over. Without proper scripting training, unfortunately, you are going to bump your head. You're going to have to figure out on your own over a long period of time, or just attend the scripting training. That's faster. I prefer to sit in front of someone who can teach me than sitting trying to figure out something for months and months and years. But anyway, that's just me. Okay, so guys, thank you for joining me. That was a very basic introduction to scripting. For some of you might have been revision, but for some of you, hopefully it was new and something useful and interesting. All right, guys, keep well, and I shall speak to you, I think, tomorrow. Have a good day.